Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Reshuffle of Union Cabinet to take place on Sunday ahead of the third such exercise for the Modi government. Union Ministers Mahendranath Pandey and Rajiv Pratap Rudy confirmed that they have resigned. NITI Ayog Vice Chairman Rajiv Kumar confident that July-September quarter will see 7 to 7.5% growth, attributes dip in first quarter GDP to destocking ahead of GST and deflationary impact of wholesale price index. "24 hours after the building collapsed in Mumbai's Bindi Bazaar, authorities call off rescue operations. 33 people killed after the 117-year-old structure came down 2 days after massive rains in Mumbai. Kenyan Supreme Court cites election irregularities, invalidates last month's presidential election result. Opposition calls for prosecution of electoral committee that declared Uhuru Kenyatta as the winner with 54% votes. Well, ahead of the expected cabinet reshuffle on Sunday, Minister of State for HRD Mahendranath Pandey and Skill Development Minister Rajiv Pratap Rudy have resigned. Confirming their resignations, they said it was a party decision.
देखिए, पार्टी के हम लोग कार्यकर्ता हैं और पार्टी का निर्णय हुआ कि आप अपना इस्तीफा दें, इसलिए वो बिल्कुल सामान्य है और पार्टी में काम करने का पुराना अनुभव है और मैं समझता हूं कि जिस स्थान पर भी जो भी कोई काम करता है वो हम सिपाही के रूप में पार्टी का काम करते हैं। सामान्य रूप से सरकार में काम करने का मौका मिला, आगे भी पार्टी में काम करने का मौका मिले, बस इसी अभियान के साथ चलते हैं।
संगठन योजना करता है और हम लोग संगठन के सिपाही हैं। संगठन का काम करते करते इस दायित्व पर आया था। संगठन का काम करते हुए मुझे उत्तर प्रदेश की भाजपा अध्यक्ष का दायित्व दिया गया है। मैंने खुद अनुरोध किया नेतृत्व से कि बड़े राज्य में मुझे ज्यादा समय देना है, इसलिए मुझे इस दायित्व से मुक्त किया जाए।
Well, after assuming office on Friday, NITI Ayog's Vice Chairman Rajiv Kumar said it was absolutely wrong to say that demonetization was responsible for the slide in GDP. Kumar stressed that farmer stress is a real phenomenon and that job creation, agriculture and health are key priorities to make development a mass movement in India.
Exuding confidence that the July-September quarter will see 7 to 7.5% growth, new Vice Chairman of the NITI Ayog, Rajiv Kumar, defended the demonetization exercise. Kumar attributed the dip in the GDP to the active destocking in anticipation of GST and the deflationary impact of the wholesale price index.
सिर्फ 6 हफ्ते के लिए हुआ था और उसमें भी करेंसी थी मौजूद थी और जनवरी से तो वो शुरू हो ही चुका था और इसलिए ये कहना कि डिमोनेटाइजेशन की वजह से अप्रैल से लेकर जून तक की क्वार्टर में उस तिमाही में जो है वो जीडीपी की गिरावट जो है वो उसकी वजह से है, वो मेरे ख्याल में बिल्कुल ही गलत है।
The new Vice Chairman also defended the NITI Ayog's recommendation of strategic disinvestment in 12 central public sector enterprises.
कई बार ये जो एलिगेशन लगता है ना कि फैमिली सिल्वर बेच दी, तो जब सिल्वर जो है वो कांसा बन जाए तो कुछ उसके बारे में सोचना पड़ता है, तो यूं कहा जाए तो ज्यादा बेहतर है।
Kumar assured that NITI Ayog will generate out-of-the-box transformational ideas to make India an economically advanced nation. It will also seek to create a platform where all stakeholders can work together towards India's development. He also said that competitive, cooperative federalism will be realized by NITI Ayog, working in close association with the states. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, 24 hours after a building collapsed in Bindi Bazaar in Mumbai, rescue operations were called off today. 33 people were killed after a 117-year-old building in South Mumbai crashed on Thursday, 2 days after massive rains in Mumbai. Rescue operations were called off as it was believed that no more persons were trapped under the debris. However, the brigade personnel have been deployed at the site as a precautionary measure. The dilapidated Hosseini building, which housed a total of 13 tenants and one commercial godown, was declared unsafe by the Maharashtra Housing and Area Development Authority in 2011. While 7 families moved out of the building complex few years ago, the remaining families continued to stay. The state government had announced a solatium of 5 lakh rupees each for the kin of the deceased. Well, the Supreme Court has agreed to begin the final hearing in the Bofors payoff case in the last week of October. The apex court has said it will hear the appeal filed by BJP leader Ajay Kumar Agarwal challenging a 2005 order by the Delhi High Court quashing charges against the Hinduja brothers. A bench comprising Chief Justice Deepak Mishra and Justices A.M. Kanvilkar and D.Y. Chandrachud said that the hearing will begin in the week commencing from October 30th. The order came on an interim application filed by Agarwal seeking early hearing and adjudication of his appeal filed against the Delhi High Court order in the 64 crore rupees scam. The Supreme Court had admitted Agarwal's petition on October 18, 2005, which was filed after the CBI failed to approach the top court with the appeal within the 90-day deadline following the High Court verdict.
मैंने एप्लीकेशन फाइल करी थी डिटेल, और उस एप्लीकेशन मैंने मेंशन भी किया था कि इस प्रकार का जो मैटर 12 साल से पेंडिंग है, जो कि डिसाइड नहीं हुआ है, इसकी वजह से अगस्ता वेस्टलैंड जैसे केस लगातार रिपीट हो रहे हैं, करप्शन डिफेंस डील्स में हो रहा है, जो कि कंट्री की सुरक्षा से संबंधित मामला है और इसको जल्दी जल्दी सुना जाना चाहिए। पहले लगातार 2010 में मैटर राइप था, केसेस सुनने के लिए आया था और उस वक्त ट्रायल कोर्ट रिकॉर्ड को सुप्रीम कोर्ट से सीबीआई ने भिजवा दिया वापस।
Well, the BJP in Karnataka on Friday sought disqualification of 8 MLCs, including 6 from the Congress and 2 JDS, for providing fake documents to vote in the mayoral election. These MLCs face allegations of submitting false addresses to enroll themselves as voters in Bengaluru for the Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike polls. A party delegation led by the leader of the opposition in the Legislative Assembly, Jagdish Shettar, submitted a memorandum to the governor urging him to issue a directive for disqualification. A report submitted by the BBMP to the Chief Electoral Officer of Karnataka also accused the MLCs of giving fake bills to the Karnataka Legislative Council to claim a lakh of rupees as travel allowance.
Congress, with malevolent intention, they enrolled the names of these 8 MLCs in the enrollment of the voter list of the mayor election, and giving false information. After that, after voting that, after election, getting election of the mayor, then they have given the address of the their original residence, Bagalkoti, Ballari and other things, that claiming TAD for committee meetings and other things, travelling allowances, that it clearly goes to say that they have committed a offence, criminal offence under IPC and Criminal Procedure Code. Even they violated the provisions of the Public Representatives Act also.
After relative calm for about a fortnight, protests erupted in Darjeeling and Kalimpong hills in North Bengal since Thursday night following an announcement to call off the nearly 80-day strike in the hills. The supporters of the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha and residents of Darjeeling took to the streets on Thursday night. Many of them were seen marching on roads or organizing demonstrations in the town. GJM Assistant General Secretary Binoy Tamang, who was recently appointed as the coordinator of GJM, was removed from the post of coordinator. GJM Chief Bimal Gurung took the decision of removing Binay Tamang from his post and also revoked his decision to suspend the shutdown till September 12th. Gurung slammed Binoy Tamang as a traitor who was playing into the hands of the state government. Tamang's house, meanwhile, was ransacked by pro-Gorkha land protesters. External Minister Sushma Swaraj on Friday called on Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena and discussed bilateral issues of mutual collaboration. Swaraj, who is in Colombo to attend the second Indian Ocean Conference, met Sirisena on the sidelines of the two-day meeting. Earlier today, Swaraj met her Sri Lankan counterpart Tilak Marappana and discussed bilateral cooperation and partnership for progress and prosperity. On Thursday, Swaraj met Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and her Singaporean counterpart Vivian Balakrishnan. The Indian Ocean Conference has been jointly organized by India, Singapore and Colombo. As a goodwill gesture, Sri Lanka yesterday released 76 Indian fishermen. Well, here's a roundup of some other news from across the country and nationwide. The Supreme Court said it would hear the Congress leader Jairam Ramesh's plea challenging the Lok Sabha Speaker's decision to certify a bill to amend the Aadhaar law as a money bill in the first week of November. The matter was mentioned before a bench headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra by Kapil Sibal, who represented Ramesh and sought an early hearing on the plea, a request that was not granted by the court. The CBI has told the Supreme Court that there is compelling reason for the lookout circulars against former Union Minister P. Chidambaram's son Karti Chidambaram in a graft case. Additional Solicitor General Tushar Mehta told the bench headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra that it's not a simple case of one company but one involving jugglery of accounts and properties abroad. The bench has asked the CBI to respond to the affidavit filed by Karti in connection with his questioning by investigators on 23rd and 28th August. The Haryana police has issued a lookout notice for Hanipreet Singh, adopted daughter of rape convict Dera Sacha Sauda chief Gurmeet Singh. A similar notice has also been issued against key Dera functionary Aditya Insan, who has already been charged with sedition for inciting violence after Gurmeet Singh's conviction. Police said that they were looking into allegations of a conspiracy to free the Dera chief. Police officials have said that airports, bus stands and railway stations across the country have been alerted. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Taking its name from the abundance of simul or red silk cotton trees that bloom vividly here, the Simlipal National Park is home to three of India's biggest animal species: tiger, Asiatic elephant and gaur. Spread over a sprawling area of 2,750 square kilometers, set on a wide expanse of sal forest, this park is nestled in the very center of Mayurbhanj in Odisha. It is one of the most breathtaking nature reserves in India, with forests, grassy meadows and some beautiful waterfalls like Joranda and Badehipani. It is also home to an astounding 1,078 species of plants, including 94 species of orchids.
We have to think of manned space program. Why we need manned space program is there is a very interesting study which has been done that moon has got plenty of helium-3 raw material. BrahMos is concerned, once we established supersonic, we also wanted to take lead further. So we launched a hypersonic program. We have now got very good number of people working on hypersonic program. ISRO is also working on hypersonic program. It is now it's time to really take off hypersonic, which is going to be the future as far as the cruise missile is concerned.
Watch Eureka with Dr. A. Shivathanu Pillai, Honorary Distinguished Professor, ISRO, only on Rajya Sabha television. The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. The These charred-bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Joseph Yuvraj Pillai of Indian origin has been appointed as the acting president of Singapore. An 83-year-old veteran civil servant, Pillai will act as the president till a new head of state is sworn in later this month. Pillai, who is the chairman of the Council of Presidential Advisors, has served as acting president every time the president goes on an overseas trip and has served 60 such stints. Well, in more international news now, in Kenya, where the Supreme Court nullified the result of last month's presidential election won by President Uhuru Kenyatta. The court observed that the August 8th poll was not conducted in accordance with the constitution and ordered a new one within 60 days.
For the first time in Kenya, its Supreme Court cancelled the result of the presidential election and ordered a re-poll. In a ruling issued on Friday, the court said the Electoral Board committed irregularities during last month's vote, harming the integrity of the election.
A declaration is hereby issued that the presidential election held on 8th August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void. Number 2, a declaration is hereby issued that the third respondent was not validly declared as the president-elect, and that the declaration is invalid, null, and void.
4 of the 6 judges upheld a petition filed by opposition candidate Raila Odinga and ordered fresh elections within 60 days.
An order is hereby issued directing the first respondent to organize and conduct a fresh presidential election in strict conformity with the Constitution and the applicable election laws within 60 days of the determination under Article 143 of the Constitution.
Opposition candidate Raila Odinga was jubilant as he welcomed the ruling.
Indeed, it's a very historic day for the people of Kenya and by extension for the people of the continent of Africa. For the first time in history of African democratization, a ruling has been made by a court nullifying irregular elections of a president. This is a precedent-setting ruling, and they are very historical.
Odinga also called for prosecution of the Electoral Committee that declared Uhuru Kenyatta as the winner with 54% of the vote.
We have no faith at all in the Electoral Commission as currently constituted. They have committed criminal acts. Most of them actually belong to jail. And therefore we are going to ask for prosecution of all the Electoral Commission officers who have caused this monstrous crime against the people of Kenya.
The election results sparked sporadic protests in Kenya in which at least 28 people were killed, raising fears of a major political violence similar to what was witnessed in 2007 when over 1,200 people lost their lives. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, rescue efforts intensified in flood-ravaged Texas almost a week after Hurricane Harvey struck parts of the southeast state on Friday. Even as the floodwater started to recede, many residents still remain stranded without food and water. Authorities also launched search operations for survivors and made helicopter rescues from rooftops as the death toll climbed to 47. The White House announced that US President Donald Trump will donate $1 million of his personal money for flood relief. The White House estimated that 1 lakh in Texas and Louisiana were damaged and more than 30,000 people are taking refuge in shelters. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence also visited Texas and promised full support until the state is back on its feet.
The resilience of the people of Texas has been inspiring. To see people who have gone through the horror of one of the largest natural disasters in American history, to be standing shoulder to shoulder, passing out food to their neighbors, helping their neighbors clear out their homes with a smile on their faces. It's humbling to me, and it's deeply inspiring.
Well, the U.S. has ordered Russia to close diplomatic offices in San Francisco, New York and Washington within the next 2 days. This is the latest round of punitive measures between the two countries that began at the end of last year. Russia has been ordered to close its San Francisco consulate and 2 trade missions in New York and Washington. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov expressed regret during a phone call with his U.S. counterpart Rex Tillerson about Washington's decision. The U.S. State Department's move follows Moscow's reduction of U.S. diplomatic staff in Russia last month. That in turn followed new U.S. sanctions on Russia over Crimea and alleged election interference, which led to the expulsion of 35 Russian diplomats.
Right now, we're requiring the Russian government to close its consulate general in San Francisco, a trade annex in Washington, D.C., and a trade annex in New York City. These closures have to be completed by the September 2nd. We've taken a firm and measured action in response to Russia's unfortunate decision earlier this year. We want to halt the downward spiral, and we want to move forward towards better relations.
Well, here's a roundup of some other international news in Global Buzz. The head of U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria feels Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is still alive. Army Lieutenant General Stephen Townsend said coalition forces were actively searching for al-Baghdadi, adding that if found, he will be likely killed and not captured. Life returned to normal in Karachi today as at least 13 people were killed by flooding following heavy monsoon rains. The private ED Foundation, which runs ambulances and medical centers, said 350 to 400 houses in low-lying areas were inundated near the Lyari River. British Prime Minister Theresa May met Japanese Emperor Akihito at the Imperial Palace today on the last day of her 3-day visit to Japan. May, on her first official visit to Japan as Prime Minister, held bilateral talks with her counterpart Shinzo Abe and agreed to cooperate in countering the threat posed by North Korea. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis has said the U.S. intends to work with Pakistan to take down terrorists, asserting that this is what a responsible nation does. His remarks came after State Department notified to the Congress to place a pause button on $255 million foreign military financing for Pakistan. And some sports news now. Ace boxer Gaurav Bidhuri became the 4th Indian sportsperson to secure a bronze medal at the ongoing World Boxing Championships in Hamburg. Bidhuri lost to American Duke Reagan in a 56-kilogram bout. Despite the loss, Bidhuri joined a rare club of World Championship medalists from India, the past winners being Vijender Singh, Vikas Krishnan and Shiva Thapa. Indian coach Santiago Nieva praised Gaurav's performance. Well, that's it on this newscast. Have a good evening.